Welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I go live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock for my live call-in show. I got myself, O'Leary, and Green Bean answering all your Jet-related questions. But let's move on to our topic of the day. And we've got another special guest with us here. Today, I introduce John from Jets Today. John, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and I'm just ready and eager for training camp, which is forever from now, and just exciting times for us as fans. So happy to talk Jets with you too.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you have not subbed up Jets Today, I'll have all the links down below in the description, so make sure you add a sub over there. John's doing a bunch of great stuff on his channel. But let's jump into everything. Let's start talking about our draft. I pulled it up right here. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, all guys that we were considering taking in the first round. And then we roll into Jeremy Ruckert, Max Mitchell, and Michael Clemens to round out the draft. So walk me through draft day for you. How were you feeling as the draft picks kind of rolled in and as the Jets kind of made their picks? Were you panicked? Were you excited? What's going on?
So we talked before the draft. You came onto my channel, and we spoke about Sauce Gardner, and we all kind of agreed. We all love Sauce, and I had made peace with the idea that we were not going to take him. I didn't expect it. I was not under the impression that the Jets were going to select him, but I was so hyped up when we did select him. And I just feel like, as I've mentioned a couple of times, like if you can combine the pass rush that we obviously want to have with, some elite play at that cornerback one spot, that's when things get special. It's not just a good defense. You go from being good to great. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to not only get to the playoffs, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. And I think players like Sauce Gardner, if they hit their ceiling, we're well on our way, man. I feel really encouraged by that draft pick. I don't know if you want me to run through all of the picks, but I just felt like the one surprising pick, and we'll probably talk about it in a minute, was the Breece Hall pick. I had said foolishly, I was like, you know what? If we take a running back at this pick, I'm going to be really disappointed. And it did surprise me. And then, after some time had passed, self-reflection, I said, man, Joe Douglas, especially seeing what he did, from the Breece Hall pick all the way to Max Mitchell, it's just more offense for Zach Wilson. And I feel like that's the theme. And especially with that Breece Hall pick, it was not we have to get the best positional value. It wasn't any of that. It's just get what you need for this quarterback to be successful. And I loved it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at this first four picks, the guys that we took in the first round. Obviously, the Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson picks were our two original picks. And I think you're probably with me on this. Where are we getting our edge rusher? Where is this guy coming from? Jermaine Johnson starts falling down the board. We're all hoping he's going to trade up. They do wind up making the trade up. We find out on day 2 we were looking to trade back up for Breece Hall as well. So when you look at the context of this draft and the Jets not being able to get back up to get Breece Hall in the first round, you're probably talking about picks 101, 111, and 117 going out the window if we were able to get back into the first. So really, yeah. Joe Douglas got his top 4 guys, or at least 4 guys that they deemed first-round grades. And then these last 3 picks were almost like bonus picks in a sense. You get Jeremy Ruckert, who Jet fans were mocking to us all like every mock draft I got, yes. Everyone had Jeremy Ruckert. I love it because that was something, I had in a lot of my mocks. You get Max Mitchell, who's more of a Joe Douglas offensive line developmental tackle pick. Really like that. And then Michael Clemens is kind of like the head coach defensive line edge player that's just a scary 6'7" dude. And these 3 players wouldn't have been on this team if we had moved up for Breece Hall. So being able to kind of have all this while also getting our top 4 guys is a really exciting draft, I think.
Yeah, and I would have been a little bit nervous under the scenario that you just talked about where we had traded up for Breece Hall into the first round. Again, I love Breece Hall, so I'm not going to sit here and say I wouldn't have been happy about it. But it would have been a little bit nerve-wracking to know that we wouldn't have landed, as you said, a developmental tackle, which I've been saying since literally day 1 of the offseason. I said I didn't want an offensive lineman. I did want to go in the mid-rounds for offensive linemen to be backups and to be developmental pieces. So, would the draft have still been really exciting? Absolutely. Hell yes, it would have been really exciting. But I think I would have been a little bit more skeptical knowing that we would have lost some serious depth pieces that I think make this draft a home run, which it was.
And it's nice kind of looking at this draft overall. And I mean, aside from the top four that we expect to be starting or at least having significant playing time, you kind of look at Rucker and Mitchell and Clemens and see, hey, there's a ton of upside with these guys, but we have starters in place. We're getting to a point where we have the depth right now and we can allow some of our rookies to sit and learn, unlike years past where we're like, hey, we got this guy in the fourth, fifth round. He's going to plug in as our cornerback. It's like not the
Yeah.
same as it once was.
Yeah, I've said that, and that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to continue to draft offensive linemen early with the idea that maybe somebody really good was sitting. I wanted to draft players with the idea that let's just stop starting rookies. If they're not needed, let's put them on the bench. That's why the Jamian Sherwood, Hamza Nasruddin stuff last year was so not frustrating. That's not really the word, but just like kind of like, man, I feel like we had a better plan in place, but it's similar to, last offseason. We were not going to fill every single hole last offseason and this offseason. So you have to just kind of take, the good with the bad, and the holes that we still have are fixable, obviously, in the future. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased with what they did, especially, excuse me, especially after the Breece Hall pick.
Yeah, and you mentioned offensive linemen in the mid rounds because I was one that would have been okay with Icky at 4 back before free agency, before we got Lincoln
Mm-hmm.
Tomlinson, because at least I could rationalize in my mind, hey, we're going to plug him in at guard for right now. It gives us leverage in a Fant negotiation. It gives us protection in case Becton goes down. It gives us protection in case we want to trade one of these guys. And I did like that aspect of it. But the minute we signed Laken Tomlinson, I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want offensive linemen in the
Mm-hmm.
first 3 rounds at all. And you look at Joe Douglas and his scouting career, he's got to earn his salt with those mid-round offensive linemen, and that's what I think he's trying to do with Max Mitchell. I think that's something he tried to do um, with Cam Clark as well. It just didn't happen
Yeah.
to work out. And I do like this same swing with Clemens as well, with Robert Saleh. Same idea. He grinded his teeth, with that defensive line out in San Francisco. So for him to be able to get a guy as talented as Clemens and be able to develop him behind a bunch of other really good players is really exciting. What did you think of the Clemens pick? Have you seen some of the interviews with this guy?
Yes. I not a plug, but I did make a video on the two defensive ends that we drafted. I feel really strongly, and this is not specifically Clemens, but the two of them together. I think the Jets are trying to build an identity with their defense right now. I think it's, we've heard the word, the mindset is violence from Jermaine Johnson. That was the quote that he had in his presser. And then Clemens is talking about punching dudes in the mouth repeatedly until they submit to him, which is amazing. And I love that kind of stuff. But I feel like the things that they said in that presser are the same types of things that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh heard in pre-draft interviews, right? Like they weren't like surprised when they heard those things. And it to hear those two say that really pushes the emphasis on the Jets want to play man coverage on the outside. They want to blitz. I'm sorry, they don't want to blitz. They want to rush their front four. And I think that that's the identity. They're trying to become a really, really intimidating, physical, and aggressive defense, especially with that front four dictating everything. So, specifically Clemens and his attitude. I think a lot of people were down on the pick because he was, he's going to be 25 years old in August, which is, a little bit, frustrating for us fans. But as a 24-year-old right now, the way the Jets saw him is they said he was I think they said a day one or a day two talent. I guess day two. They felt like he was one of those guys that maybe slipped too far. And based on the tape, if they see something in this kid and they feel like he can be another rotational piece, which is so important with this philosophy that they have, all gas, no break, I think people lose sight of what that really means. It means you are going 100% all the time in everything that you do. And on the football field, it's that defensive line, man. They have got to be able to go full tilt constantly.
So let's jump off right there. We'll start talking about our defense. A lot of things have changed over the course of the last, off season or so. So let's start up front with the defensive line. What are your expectations for them? What do you think of our new additions? Give me the rundown.
For our defensive line, they don't have to be a elite, pass rush yet, because I still feel like unless Carl Lawson comes back, picks up exactly where he left off last summer, which I'm still not saying with conviction that he's going to do that, just because it is such a serious injury. But if he's able to do that, then it starts to change the conversation. For right now, my only expectation is that they are able to consistently stress the quarterback. And it doesn't have to be sack production. It doesn't have to be necessarily one category, hits, pressures, anything like that. They just need to harass the quarterback, because that will lead to everything that we need. We need to be better in the red zone. We have to be able to hold offenses to 3 points. We have to create negative plays. So TFL, sacks, that's one of the things you can do. Creating turnovers. Holy crap. We didn't create enough turnovers last year, Jets fans. There's a lot of you watching this. Not enough. And pass rush changes all of that. And so that's why, you've talked a lot about it, and everybody on this planet that's a Jets fan has talked about the pass rush, because it is the ingredient that is so needed to really turn the corner defensively. I think we had 7 interceptions last year. No bueno. Not good enough.
Yeah, and Robert Saleh brought it up too. The more turnovers you create, you help your young quarterback. You're creating more opportunities to score. You're taking away opportunities to score for the other team's offense. So just because you don't necessarily attack offense with your number 4 overall pick, it doesn't mean you're not helping your young quarterback and all that good stuff. Moving back to our linebacker position, we got Quincy Williams, we got CJ Mosley. I think a lot of people are sort of in the boat of, I don't hate our linebacker core, but it's definitely maybe the weak link, or maybe not as deep of a position as we may otherwise like. How are you feeling about our linebackers?
It's not deep enough. I'll put it frank. I like Quincy Williams. I think he's a good piece to have, and as of right now, he is a locked starter, right? Like there's no competition for him to not be a starter. And CJ Mosley, I still love him. I think he's going to be I think he's going to have a bounce back year, even though I still felt like he was a really effective player for us last year. I think he's going to make more plays on the football, especially if the pass rush gets going. And then it's really, really thin after that, man. I know Hamza Nasruddin was a draft pick in 2021, Jamien Sherwood as well. I don't know, man. It's just like, it feels like a flip of a coin right now. Like who is going to come out of the depth chart and step forward, because that's kind of what you're hoping, right? You're hoping somebody comes to the table and just says, I'm that guy, and I'm going to be that third person that you can count on. Otherwise, we've talked a lot about it in some of the streams we do. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's crazy to suggest that we're going to run 4-2-5 defense a little bit. And I think you mentioned it even on the draft day stream. We have the personnel to run that. And having less linebackers, certainly it isn't quite as big of a problem if we're doing that. And we have the secondary. We have a lot, we have a lot of cornerbacks and a lot of DBs. So, yeah, I think it's interesting to think about. And again, I am a little bit concerned about linebacker. Quan Alexander should have been signed for us yesterday. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it's definitely a concerning spot on this defense.
So another area of concern that I think is probably in line with a lot of other people are probably thinking, the safety position. You bring in Jordan Whitehead, you have Ashton Davis, and you bring back Lamarcus Joyner, who we didn't get to see last year, but we haven't really seen a good safety season from him since before he was on the Raiders. So you're talking maybe 3 years ago when he was on the Rams. So what are your thoughts of the safety position? Do you think the Jets could have addressed it better? What are your expectations?
I feel better about safety than I do linebacker, and I'll say that there's more guys that we can point to and say, okay, we have more options at safety. Will Parkinson, I think, or what the hell is his name? Will Parks. Thank you. Will Parkinson is another Jets content creator. Will Parks is a guy that they've kept and they seem to like a lot. Ashton Davis is another name, and even Panak. He played a couple of games and he looked pretty good doing the part. So perhaps the Jets have their eyes on him as far as being a potential fit. And again, if the pass rush is improved, you're kind of looking at safety and you're saying, okay, that's one of those positions where maybe we can get away with guys that are not necessarily top of the line talent. I feel okay about safety. Maybe I'm in the minority there thinking that way, but I think we're going to be okay at safety. And you mentioned, what's his name? Lamarcus Joyner. You mentioned Lamarcus Joyner, and I think the Jets, they talked a lot about him, how they valued him as a leader and a veteran on the defense. I think they're counting on him quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how young that secondary was last year, and the miscommunications that we had throughout the secondary, probably because Lamarcus Joyner was not on the field. And now you kind of go into this secondary this year, and you have guys that are a little more veteran presence, but then you bring in the number 4 overall pick in Sauce Gardner to be your, ideally your number 1 corner, maybe number 2 this year. You have DJ Reed, who was a top corner last year, coming in as well. An area that going into last season looked like just we were having the land of misfit toys out there. You had Bryce Hall, you had Brandon Eccles, Michael Carter. We weren't sure what we were going to get from all these guys. So to go from that to what looks like maybe one of the deeper positions on our team, how are you feeling about the cornerback position?
I love it. I think it's great. And I think that an injury, I hope to God that it's not a serious one and it's not a long-term one. If we have an injury in the cornerback room, we're going to be okay. And there's so many other positions now on this team. And again, we're not perfect everywhere. Linebacker, we're in pretty big trouble if CJ Mosley goes down. Like there's a couple of players, Jordan Whitehead, if he goes down at safety, that would be concerning for me because that's a player that I didn't mention. Really, really love that signing quite a bit. And his versatility helps the linebacking crew as well because he can come down and play, some of those packages on dime and nickel. But yeah, I feel like we have so many players now. You mentioned Brandon Eccles and Bryce Hall, who I've heard crazy things. People want to trade him or are considering trading him. I think that's foolish. With 2 years left on a rookie deal, why? Why are we trading him? It doesn't make any sense to me. The depth is there. There's a top of the line talent. You mentioned DJ Reed. I did not know enough about him going into free agency, and he was kind of a surprise signing. I'm very, very pleased that we got him. I think he fits everything they're trying to do on defense.
Now, moving on from our defensive side of the ball, we're going to look at the opposite side of the ball, one that everyone always gets excited about, and that's the offense. Let's start up front with the big fatties, offensive line. You got Mekhi Becton coming back from injury. You got George Fant, who filled in fantastically over on that left tackle spot. Who's playing which tackle? You got AVT coming back for year 2, moving over from left guard over to right guard. You bring in Pro Bowl guard Laken Tomlinson from the 49ers, and then you have Connor McGovern as the anchor at the center position. So how are you feeling about our offensive line across the board? Where do you think we stand?
Starting unit, barring not being able to gel and not building proper chemistry, that would be concerning. But I think that as a unit, it's very, very strong in the starting lineup. And again, that would be another position where if we suffer an injury at offensive tackle, it doesn't mean that it's not going to work out, but it would be really, really, it would be nerve wracking. I'll be honest with you, because you're then looking at potentially starting Chuma Edoga again, and then Max Mitchell could be slid into the starting lineup, which as a rookie, I don't really love that. But the starting unit has a very, very high ceiling, and I think that they brought in Laken Tomlinson, and it was an ideal scenario, an ideal fit for the Jets. It filled such a huge need, and he is now I would say, the veteran. McGovern's still a veteran as well, but Laken Tomlinson has more experience in this system. He made his Pro Bowl this past year. I think that he can be an anchor, and AVT I think is going to be one of the best players on the football team in 2022. That's one of my hot takes. I think he's a guy that can take off this upcoming season. And Joe Douglas, pretty confidently, he doesn't always put comments out there like that, but he said that they have one of the best, if not the best, guard tandems in the National Football League, and you don't hear statements like that from him. I don't feel like so. He put his statement there on the table, and I feel very, very confidently with, like I said, with chemistry, gelling as a unit, knowing how to communicate is going to be very good, and we're going to be able to see some dynamic plays just by turning around and handing the football off.
Yeah, and you talk about all these guys being in year 2 of the system, and then Laken Tomlinson coming in, he doesn't have to learn the system. It's fantastic. It's absolutely awesome. They're going to hit the ground running with the rest of this offensive line. There might be a little bit of gelling with, how does this guy block? How does this guy slide? What are their cues and things of that nature? But overall, I think the offensive line was a strength, turned into an even better strength this year. And then I guess we can kick out to a position that was not a strength last year, one that we really wanted to try and invest a little bit of money and free agency power into last offseason. Didn't happen. That's the tight end room. You have Croft, Wesco, Griffin out the door. Now you're talking uh, Conklin, Uzoma, Ruckert. How you feeling about tight ends now?
Uh, Jokingly, I had mentioned maybe they need to just scrap the whole room. And that's not really a practical thing to like rehaul an entire position room. Like that doesn't happen in the NFL, I feel like. And like Joe Douglas pulled it off. I mean, he got two tight ends that I feel like you're not sitting there and you're saying they're going to become George Kittle, Darren Waller, anything like that. They're not that type of guy, but they are really good. They're really effective. And I was super high on Conklin. He was one of the guys that I predicted that we would sign. Right before free agency actually happened, I thought that he was a great fit for what they wanted to do. And who's to say, there's not going to be like a clear cut tight end one going into the season because it's going to take us seeing how they actually utilize these guys. But I think they have three options that are viable and that when they're on the football field, we don't lose anything in the blocking department. And the beautiful thing about the Jeremy Ruckert draft pick, which by the way, I was one of those people. He was right up there with Trey McBride. I wanted him in the worst way. I didn't. It was like the Sauce Gardner pick. I didn't expect we were going to take him, and I was so happy when we did. But anyway, we don't lose anything with him, and he can play year one in just predominantly a blocking role, and he's going to kick ass in that. I think he's going to be really really good, and down the line, I think he has tight end one ability. I really do.
Now, going just one position group back, guys that are going to take advantage of this great offensive line, these great tight ends, that's the running back room. We talked a little bit about Breece Hall a little bit earlier. We got Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman. You got Knight coming in as well. What do you think about this running back room compared to last year, and how are you feeling about it moving forward?
I'll make one big point, and I think that maybe last year with Carter getting hurt, we lost something, right? Like when we didn't have him, our offense wasn't the same and it wasn't as explosive in the running game. I do like Tevin Coleman, but he's just not that guy that can really make a big difference in a football game. And now we're in a scenario where we have two guys, and I think that they're going to split the carries. I think Michael Carter is going to be involved in the offense heavily. And if an injury happens, again, fingers crossed, it's nothing too serious, but we're good. We are in a perfect scenario where if one of those guys goes down, the other one's going to be able to pick up the slack. And I think that the dream now is can we get a third guy, in this backfield that we like that can also split carries in the event of an injury. So if it's is it Bam Knight? Is that the dude?
Yep.
Yeah. So Bam, I think that's the guy that everybody's pointing to right now. But P. Ryan's going to be involved in that competition. Unless he gets cut before, any of this offseason activities get started. And Tevin Coleman also is going to be in the mix for that. And the one guy I think I will confidently say, I'm not sure Ty Johnson gets on this football team, which is too bad because a cold take of mine is I was a big fan of his going into last year. And I felt like, he had everything. He had the hands and he had the explosive running ability, and it just did not work out for him, which really sucks because I thought he was a pretty good dude.
Yeah, that was one that kind of surprised me. And then was it the Jaguars game? I don't remember which game it was where he just dropped like 3 passes in a matter of like 4 plays. I'm like, oh no, like dude,
Yeah,
you're off
pain.
the team. That was
Yeah.
it was not good. Now moving outside of that, we got a really exciting position group, one that we were pretty excited for last year in the wide receiving core. Now we've added Garrett Wilson. Talk to me a little bit about what you think and expect from this wide receiver room.
Oh man, I expect Elijah Moore to have a really good year. I think that he's wide receiver one right now for me, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a million targets for him to be wide receiver one. I just think that he is the guy that Zach should feel the most comfortable with throwing to. And I think they're going to continue to use him in multiple ways. They're going to involve him, in the outside position, in the slot. I think they need to do even a little bit more we saw like Braxton Berrios do a lot of different things last year, especially down the road, down the season. I would like to see Elijah Moore doing some of that as well. I think that would be one of my biggest gripes. Like I love Braxton Berrios and I think they need to continue to utilize him, but please, dear God, go into that bag, Mike LaFleur, and get Elijah Moore doing some freaky things. Like I want to see him doing that kind of stuff too. But even if he's not, I think he's very, very talented, and I think that he works his butt off. And assuming the chemistry takes place with he and Zach, I think he has a unreal, ceiling. And I think that another player that a lot of people were really, really down on, and maybe you're feeling that way, I'm not sure, but Corey Davis is one that everybody crapped on really badly, and rightfully so, because he had some bad games and some bad moments. And I just think that that's not really the guy he was prior to joining us. That was some play that we hadn't really seen from him in Tennessee. And I think that, again, if he gets a little bit more comfortable with Zach and there's just a little bit more chemistry there, he's going to play much, much better this year. And then you throw in all the other guys. I mean, Braxton Berrios is great depth and a great guy that can come in and make some plays when needed. Garrett Wilson, the 10th overall draft pick, I haven't mentioned him. There was a really cool quote I read about him where it was something about like before the ball's in the air, he's this receiver. And then they said when the ball is in the air and he's going to go up and get it, he's DeAndre Hopkins, which I thought was surprising because he goes up and he goes and grabs that football. So yeah, I think that, I didn't even mention Denzel Mims. I think I said in a video, I was like, we all thought he was dead in the water, but in fact, he was in the gym working out. He is, he's thick, man. He and Zach Wilson must have been sharing the same meal plan and the same workout routine. He looks great. And he was a very, very popular player amongst the fans to have like a breakout year in year 2. If we had to wait an extra year and he does it this year and he's just an effective player with the opportunities that he gets, I'll be so happy for him.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. When you look at Corey Davis, you saw how much chemistry him and Zach Wilson had, or at least like the confidence level in him being able to go up and get the ball. Zach really force-fed him the ball the beginning part of the season. So to get him back healthy another year, I'm with you. I think he is going to be a valuable asset this year. And ideally, if Mims does take that next step, if he is that bigger body dude, maybe you move on from Corey Davis at the end of this year and Mims kind of slots in there. And that would be fantastic. I mean, worst case scenario, you hold on to Corey Davis because as we're looking at it, $12 million for a wide receiver, that's chump change compared to all the other contracts that we're seeing get dished out. So yeah, dude, I'm right there with you.
I was just going to add, funny thing, people thought we spent too much money on him. That was a literal common conversation that people were having, is that we paid too much for Corey Davis.
Yeah, it's amazing to think what just 1 year's time and what the receiver market became is just totally, totally different. Now,
it's crazy.
Let's move on to the all-important question. What are your thoughts on year 2 from Zach Wilson? We saw some ups and downs. We saw him kind of end on more of a high note. You got to see some of the processing power. He kind of figured out little things that he was doing. He was getting to the line of scrimmage faster. He was calling guys off sides. He was using the hard count, things that you don't necessarily see rookie quarterbacks doing. I think people should be really encouraged. We see him coming out in all these pictures. The guy looks jacked, really hitting the gym like you mentioned. What are your thoughts for year 2, Zach Wilson?
I expect him to make a jump. I expect him to improve his play. And I'm not saying this is a reason for him to make a jump, but a lot of people are starting to climb onto the bandwagon. They're seeing what the Jets have done this offseason, and I think rightfully so. There are a number of explosive playmakers now at his disposal, and you and I talked about it. The starting unit right now for the offensive line, the depth that we have and the youth that we have at tight end. What does he not have? He has everything. The only thing really missing is depth. So if we go through this similar, heartbreaking tale where we have a million injuries, that's going to change the conversation, I would say. But that there is no excuse, or I don't want to say no excuse because some people get upset, but there really is no excuse. If we maintain health, and if he is the number 2 number 2 overall draft pick, he should improve. And I think that's the expectation that I have for him. And I'm going to twist this a little bit, and I'm going to say that I'm actually putting more pressure on our coaching staff here. I think that that's going to be one of the things that I stress this summer is our coaches have to have as good of an offseason as Joe Douglas did. He set the table, right? Like he got all of the fine china out. He got the silverware. He polished that crap. He got it all ready for us to have a really good meal. And now these coaches, they can't screw it up, man. They've got to coach the hell out of these players and get them ready and have them mentally prepared and maintaining good health during the season. I know that's not their specific job, but We have got to get the best out of our coaches. And Mike LaFleur, I think, is going to do a really, really good job, which he did last year, calling plays. That's where I'm focused with Zach Wilson. Put him in the best position possible to have a lot of success. So if there's a game where you can see he's gonna come out a little bit slower, please make the adjustment. Run the football. Do something different. Don't get stuck on doing one thing. And again, teach. Just get this guy ready to play football. I think a lot of this goes on Mike LaFleur, and I'm going to make the comparison that a million people do, and I hate to do it, but Daboll of the Bills, when he was with the Bills, he did a phenomenal job of teaching Josh Allen. Josh Allen is an explosive talent, but he wasn't going to do jack without having great coaching, and that's what he got.
Yeah, and it feels like you knew exactly where I was going with this. We're talking the coaching staff now, because I completely agree. Joe Douglas bought all the groceries. Now it's up to Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, Ulbrich, the whole team to really put together the meal for us here. Now, I know Ulbrich got a lot of heat last year. People were calling for his head because of the defense. And I was kind of on the boat of, look, it's hard to make a meal without any groceries. Like, you don't have anything in the bag. Guys got hurt. Your defense was predicated on edge rush. You lost Vinny Curry. You lost Carl Lawson. All this different stuff wound up happening. And then Mike LaFleur, like you mentioned, there's a lot of options now for this offense. A lot of things. Guys are not learning the terminology. They're able to hit the ground running now. Robert Saleh comes into year 2 as a head coach. He should be more comfortable. He should be able to, get guys in the right position. I want to see him kind of overall, CEO of the team, not just kind of, learning on the job. I think you got to kind of apply some of that. So overall, what would you say your expectations are maybe for the coaching staff?
Oh, you did a good job of saying the thing about Ulbrich. I was not. There were so many people ready to fire him and execute him in Times Square, and I do get it because there were some flaws, right? Like the one play that always comes to my mind is the Atlanta Falcon game in London where Jonathan Franklin Myers was covering Kyle Pitts. That was, I mean, bad. I don't know how else to say it. It was a really bad job of putting those guys in a position to be successful. And he has to do a better job of that. But you're right. What did we have defensively last year? I know that coaches make the difference. Like that's definitely fair to say. And I am saying that's what our coaches need to do is take our team to another level and to continue to improve them. But if you don't have the talent, it's one of those things you can't do one without the other. And so now my expectation is just continue to get these younger, because we're still so incredibly young. We just drafted another 7 players that are very, very young. We are retaining many second and third year players on the roster now. And I can't remember the stat. It was something crazy. Like we have so much youth, and it was something like we only had like 1 or 2 30-year-old players or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but very, very young. And so they have to just continue to stress, getting the team ready to play and making sure that they do all that they can mentally and, schematically to get them in the best position to play. And you mentioned Saleh. I don't know if he did it. I think he did a pretty good job. At times I thought it was pretty rocky there. There were some bad losses, and I thought he handled it pretty damn well. I'll go through it and throw that out there. I don't want to see the Colts game. I don't want to see the New England game where we were on the road. I don't want to see anything where we're just absolutely humiliated to be a Jets fan. Please, coaching staff, don't let that happen.
So I'm going to put you on the spot right now. What's the threshold of wins you'd like to see or think this team could kind of hit?
So my minimum, which I've been talking more about, I think that if we're less than 7 wins, that's a bit concerning. I think if you're telling me that we're going from 4 wins to 6 wins, I mean, I guess it could work out. Like if Zach balls out and we're 6-11 at the end of the season, I'm okay. I'll be fine. I don't expect that. If we're 6-11, something didn't go very well. It could have been defensively. It could have been offensively. I don't know which. But I feel like 7-8 really should be where we're at this upcoming season. And, if we get 9 and 10, woo, I'm excited. I'd be really, really happy with 9 or 10. I think that's like, tickle me pink, man. I'd be so excited and so thrilled. But again, 7 or 8 wins, I should say. And again, and you've said it, and many people have said it. 7 wins can look really, really good in some scenarios, and then 7 wins can look really, really bad. We saw 7 wins with the, what was it, the 2019 Jets? Was it 2019?
Yeah, when we wound up going on that run at the end with like the third string quarterback against the Steelers, the backups with the Bills, like
yeah, we barely beat the backup Bills too. Yeah, that's the worst scenario. So if we're 7-11 and we just look like dogs out there and we're not really taking any steps forward, but we somehow manage 7 wins, the 7 to 8 wins has to look a certain way, and a certain way is our offense burns. They have too much talent on the offense to not be successful this year. So there's my expectations.
I love it. John, thank you so much for coming on. Plug yourself. Let them know where they can find you, what you got going on.
You can follow me on pretty much every social media platform at NYJetsToday_. There is an underscore at the end. And you guys can also find me on YouTube. I have a channel. It's called Jets Today. And I've had Ryan on. I've had a lot of collabs. These guys are all so great. And I think I try to always say that when I join other people. You guys are just so very classy, inviting me and welcoming me. You don't know me really that well, but you've seen my work and you've watched, some of the content. So you know that I try to do my best to be a good person. So, I really appreciate you involving me and welcoming me. It's very, very, I take it very, very seriously that you included me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't include you if I didn't think you were a good guy. So, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. It means a whole heck of a lot. Guys, like I said, his links will be down below in the description. Make sure you give John a good follow over there. John, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, let me know your thoughts and what you thought about John's takes. Did you like them? Did you dislike them? What are your thoughts in the comment section down below? And as always, go Jets.